Tribe, I become invincible with my 10,000 times bonus from the start. Chapter 111, The Start of the War. Eagle Alliance, Heaven's Guild. The Eagle Alliance was located far away from the Divine Dragon Alliance, almost across the entire Shadow World. Without a teleportation portal and with the current speed of the players, they would not be able to cross that distance without spending more than 3 days. Therefore, Eve did not directly participate in the encirclement of the Divine Dragon Alliance this time. At the moment, the Heaven Guild had successfully vanquished a gold-grade boss, but there was not a single trace of joy on her face. Eve was staring at the individual points rankings. Looking at Li Cheng's points, she immediately ordered, "Inform them to hurry up and move, I want to see the news of Netherworld's fall today." In the Universe Alliance, a man was riding a huge warhorse that was emitting a deadly aura. He looked ahead confidently. Behind him, there was a black mass of heads. At this time, one of his subordinates ran over and said, "Boss, the Eagle Alliance sent a message, they want us to move quickly." The man smiled and asked, "What about the 100 Flowers Alliance and White Elephant Alliance?" "They'll follow our lead," the subordinate replied. "Okay." Hearing this, the man's expression immediately became serious. He waved the long sword in his hand and ordered, "All troops, attack. Today, we must heavily injure the Divine Dragon Alliance. We must let them know that in this region, our Universe Alliance is the boss." That sleeping lion's talking about our Universe Alliance. Purple Rose's people had been paying attention to the movements of the other alliances. When the other alliances made their move, Li Cheng received a message from Purple Rose. "They have started to march. There are many people, as many as us." After receiving the message, Li Cheng revealed a cold smile. Having the numbers was not a factor that could decide a war. In Tribe, before the game merged with reality, different alliances would have air walls. If one wanted to enter the territory of different alliances, the only way was to start an alliance war. Based on the progress of his previous life, it would take some time for an alliance war to start. To start an alliance war, at least some players had to establish a guild. Very few players would decide not to join a guild because the existence of each guild was the basic unit to start an alliance war. If more than 70% of the players in the guilds of a certain alliance agreed to start an alliance war, the strongest guild would take the lead and start the war. If the alliance war was won, they would naturally obtain a large amount of resources from the loser and completely destroy the enemy's territory. They could even defeat the NPC kingdoms within the enemy's territory. This way, the players from the enemy alliance would not have any protection and would not be able to receive any quests from the NPC kingdoms. It could be said that this was the fastest way to make a fortune and defeat the enemy. Up until now, no player had created a guild. Hence, it would be a joke to say that the alliance war had started. However, one had to know that this was not the main world but a large-scale world event. In other words, there was no air wall in this place. Once players from different alliances met here, it was very common for them to kill each other. The Divine Dragon Alliance had always been the top force formed by the 3 major guilds in other online games. Unlike the Eagle Alliance, which was led by Eve and was dominated by the Heaven Guild, there were a lot of people who were willing to join the Divine Dragon Alliance. This also resulted in them being surrounded and attacked by the other alliances in many online games. Li Cheng had been suppressed by the other alliances many times in his previous life, so naturally, he felt some hostility against them. After all, he still had the heart of Massacre to repair, and his own alliance had reaped peerless prideful sword the last time. Now that the other alliances were going to deliver themselves to his doorstep, Li Cheng naturally would not hold back. Thinking of this, Li Cheng immediately sent out a holy war notice. Holy war notice. It has been discovered that the other alliances are coming to invade us. Everyone, enter battle mode. Each guild will form their own formation. After this wave, they won't be able to return home. At first, some players did not know what was going on. However, as the players who knew about this matter started talking amongst themselves, they quickly understood the ins and outs of the matter. Immediately, the players seemed to be on stimulants as they discussed. FCK, FCK, he's annoying us even during an event. F***CK him. F***CK them, what 100 Flowers Alliance? I want them to know that I'll kill 100 flowers after they bloom. All of them will die. F***CK them, everyone, quickly enter the group. Don't hold back this time, fight to the death. This is the first battle of the Tribal Alliance, everyone must not lose. You coward, you want to lose before we even fight. You mother **CKER, I'm definitely the fiercest one. If you aren't satisfied, let's compete. Fiercest? If we're with Netherworld boss, it means that the opponents are all scum. Kill, kill, kill. This group of people are like flies, they surround us every day. It's so annoying. This time, I'll crush them completely. The players were all in high spirits. Following Li Cheng's holy war announcement, some of the players from various guilds were trying their best to coordinate their troops. This was also one of the advantages of being in a guild. It allowed the entire guild to get into formation, allowing each soldier to bring out their greatest effect. Meanwhile, the unspecialized players were also forming teams with each other. Each of them would reveal their own unique skills and coordinate with each other. Tribe was not a game that could be completed simply by charging up, especially in large-scale battles. The front rows comprised meat shield soldiers and the back row had the DPS soldiers. On top of that were the aerial troops, the flexible flanks, and the underground and emergency troops. All of them had extremely high requirements. If there was a mistake, it could cause the entire team to collapse. This was also the main reason why the players were willing to play in Tribe. As for Li Cheng, he naturally could not be bothered with the players. With Purple Rose, the guild leader who had a lot of combat experience, there was no need for him to deploy them. This exhausted Purple Rose. At this moment, she was busy commanding the various guilds to get them into the most suitable positions. Sharp Sword, Stone City, and Phoenix Blood, the three of you, the majority of your troops are flexible. Organize your own guild members and go to the left wing of the army. Domineering, White Rabbit, and Yuntian, the same goes for your three guilds. Organize your own guild members and head to the right wing of the army. Individual groups, Meat Shield soldiers, go to the front. You guys follow behind the army. Find your own attacking positions and stand ready to support all sides. Purple Rose was currently giving various orders to the various guilds. In the past, the three guilds were jointly responsible for the various battles that involved the alliance. However, this time, Purple Rose was the only one, so the position of commander fell to her. When she turned around and saw Li Cheng, she was so angry that she almost jumped. Then, she gritted her teeth and said, D***MN Netherworld, I'm so busy but he doesn't even bother to help me. He actually has time to flirt with a female hero. Chapter 112, Prepare for Battle. At this moment, Li Cheng led his troops and slowly walked to the front of the alliance formation. At the same time, he counted his gains and checked the title he had obtained. Demon Slayer, Immortal. Description: this title records your heroic feat of migrating and killing hundreds of millions of demons. Your name is widely spread in the bottomless abyss. Even demon kings would hesitate when they see you. Grade: Immortal, only hidden. Effect: damage to all demon units plus 1000%. Li Cheng was shocked when he saw this title. This was the first time he had seen an immortal grade title. He had to admit that the attributes were a little ridiculous. It dealt additional 10 times damage to all demons. This coefficient of damage was very rare, and demons were the biggest enemies in the entire plane. They did not have any allies and they were natural enemies with all the creatures in the entire plane. Even the evil forces were enemies with demons, so this title was extremely useful. In his previous life, once the game and reality overlapped, the demons were the main evil force. Now that he had this title, even if he had to face the ancient Demon King in the future, Li Cheng would have a much easier time. Other than these, Li Cheng also entered the leaderboard of contribution points of the Church of Light. He had never heard of this in his previous life. He opened the rankings and looked at it. Ranking of the contribution points of the Church of Light. 1. Archbishop Blonder. Contribution points, 59,452 trillion. 2. Asilia. Contribution points, 46 trillion. 3. Netherworld. Contribution points, 13 trillion. After seeing this ranking, the corners of Li Cheng's mouth involuntarily twitched. No wonder he had never heard of this ranking in his previous life, because out of the 10 people on this ranking list, apart from Li Cheng, the rest were all NPCs. Compared to ordinary players, it was much easier for NPCs to obtain contribution points. When Li Cheng saw the Archbishop's name in the first place, he pondered for a moment. He was the holy son of the God of Light during the last great war between gods and demons. He was extremely powerful, at least the kind that had one foot in the true God realm. According to Li Cheng's calculations, it would not be long before this Archbishop would truly step into the true God realm and become a god himself. He would become the subordinate god of the God of Light. The reason why Li Cheng was able to climb up was mainly because he had destroyed countless demon buildings. A single building was worth millions or tens of millions of contribution points. After adding the 10,000 times amplification, it was simply too much. Of course, the ranking list was not just an ordinary list. There were also all sorts of bonuses. Li Cheng's third place bonus gave him an additional 30% damage to the evil faction. After the 10,000 times amplification, it directly increased the damage by 1000%. This attribute was very useful to Li Cheng. Coupled with his demon nemesis title, the bonus damage to the evil faction had reached a terrifying level. If the enemy was a demon, looking at the bonus damage made Li Cheng suck in a breath of cold air. It directly increased the damage by more than 20 times. Thinking of this, Li Cheng's eyes were filled with all kinds of thoughts. He was very familiar with demons. They were the main evil force that entered Earth. Li Cheng had died in their siege in his previous life. Now that he had so many bonuses in his possession, could he make the necessary preparations in advance? After checking his harvest, Li Cheng looked at the deep pit that his cannon had created. Unfortunately, the corpses of the demon bosses inside had all been blasted into powder. Other than a shimmering profound puppet core, there was no other loot. Ding dong! You have obtained the loot, a legendary grade profound puppet core. Li Cheng looked at it for a while and realized that this item was slightly different from the 3 pieces that he had obtained previously. It seemed that Tyavanas had studied it before. As a champion class soldier, even the daughter of the Demon King would be envious of the profound puppets. After looking at it for a while, he threw the core into his backpack. Now, 4 legendary profound puppets had been gathered. Li Cheng planned to deal with the players first before completing the mission. Thinking of this, he commanded Sylvia to return to the ground and meet up with the main force. In a few minutes, Li Cheng's troops had arrived at the front of the entire Divine Dragon Alliance formation. When they saw Li Cheng return, Purple Rose ran over anxiously and said, "Netherworld, their army has too many troops. They hired a lot of kobolds." Hearing this, Li Cheng was stunned. Kobolds? Those things could be called troops? They had been fighting gnomes for tens of thousands of years, and these 2 species were known as the 2 weirdos of the continent. Moreover, they were from an evil force. Killing them would not only complete the activity quest but also earn them contribution points. Li Cheng could not wait for more of them to come. He comforted Purple Rose, "Don't worry. You have to have faith in the players of the Alliance. If you can't even defeat the kobolds, hurry up and delete your account and go home to wash up and sleep. The safest place is under the covers." Hearing this, Purple Rose could only nod. The nervousness in her heart did not change because of Li Cheng's words. According to the information she received, the enemy had sent out a lot of troops. This time, the ones attacking the Divine Dragon Alliance were the White Elephant Alliance, the Universe Alliance, and the 100 Flowers Alliance. The combined forces of these three alliances were already much more than the Divine Dragon Alliance. In addition, there were still many guilds on her side that had yet to participate in the battle. Taking the kobolds into consideration, the situation was not looking good. Those guilds that did not participate in the battle seemed to be waiting to see Li Cheng make a fool of himself. Among them was some of the main force from before, as well as medium-sized guilds. Apart from that were only some unspecialized players. There were also quite a number of players who felt that they could not win. Hence, they returned to their own territory, so the number of people who participated in the battle was not even half of what it was in the past. If one were to talk about advantage, it would be Li Cheng's strong buff that dominated the various leaderboards. It could raise the combat strength of the players to a new level. However, just relying on this amount of people on his side, it did not seem that they would be able to defeat the enemy at all, even with Li Cheng's buff. Compared to Purple Rose's anxiety, Li Cheng did not panic at all. In his own words, it was like he had been reborn. If he still treated the players as his opponents, he might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill them himself. At this time, the players of the Divine Dragon Alliance had gathered. Li Cheng took out 100 bottles of legendary potions from his backpack, threw them to Purple Rose, and said, "Distribute this to all the guilds." Purple Rose checked the attributes and exclaimed, "What the F***ck, this is?" Li Cheng did not care. Such potions were available at every event in the shop, so he did not lack any of them. Purple Rose nodded repeatedly. With these potions, the combat strength of the players of the Divine Dragon Alliance would definitely rise to another level. Chapter 113, I'm a Tier 3 soldier, Invincible. At this time, in the teams of many alliances. F***ck, you people from the Universe Alliance, don't steal our monsters, okay? Don't F***ing push it, it's clear that you guys are the ones stealing our monsters. Hehe, you two small alliances, don't say anything, this time, it's up to us, the White Elephant Alliance. White Elephant Alliance. I'm laughing. May I ask if drinking elephant urine in the game can increase your attributes? If not, then don't force it. This time, the alliance was made up of many guilds. The main members of the alliance were still the White Elephant Alliance, 100 Flowers Alliance, and the Universe Alliance. They were also the main force of this siege against the Divine Dragon Alliance. However, this time, the White Elephant Alliance had sent hundreds of billions of troops, while the Universe Alliance sent countless kobolds. The 100 Flowers Alliance could only be a supporting role. When there were too many people, there were bound to be quarrels. It was a combination of three alliances. Therefore, they all spoke as if their alliance was the big brother. In the face of such a scene, the three men in front of the troops did not care about these things. Instead, they were conspiring and talking about something else. These three men were the White Elephant Alliance's Great Brahma, the Universe Alliance's Universe Origin, and the 100 Flowers Alliance's speed of 5 km per second. The three of them were also the leaders of the three alliances. Great Brahma was said to be a noble of the White Elephant Alliance who had an extremely noble status. Universe Origin was a super expert that had been famous for a long time in the Universe Alliance, the kind that started from scratch who had now become a terrifying existence that dominated the Universe Alliance. As for the 100 Flower Alliance's speed of 5 km per second, it was the son of the 100 Flower Alliance's greatest guild leader. The guild that they had founded had already dominated the 100 Flowers Alliance for decades. The three of them had their own ulterior motives, but now, they all had the same goal. This time, we'll definitely let Netherworld die without a burial ground. Haha, you guys just follow behind our Universe Alliance. Our Kobold army will definitely succeed. Hee, this time, our 100 Flowers Alliance will be using a strategy that he can't resist. This time, Netherworld must fall from the altar. At this time, outside the Divine Dragon Alliance formation, there were flying troops in front to scout the enemy's situation. Reporting, the Universe Alliance's troops are still 500 kilometers away from us. Reporting, the 100 Flowers Alliance's troops are still 300 kilometers away from us. In the front lines are the highly mobile cavalry. The Sword Aura Guild has already gone to meet the enemy. Report. Numerous messages kept ringing in Purple Rose's ears. Immediately, she began to feel a little overwhelmed. There was nothing she could do. Although she was highly experienced in commanding, this was her first time fighting on such a scale, so she was momentarily flustered. Purple Rose looked at Li Cheng beside her and said, "In another 10 minutes, we'll come into contact with the other alliance's army. What do you have in mind?" Compared to Purple Rose's flustered state, Li Cheng looked extremely relaxed. At this moment, he yawned and said, "What formation are they in?" Purple Rose replied, "In the front rows are the Tier 2 Militia Cavalry and the White Elephant Alliance's Tier 3 Elephant Soldiers." Hearing this, Li Cheng instantly lost interest. Tier 2 soldiers? Tier 3 soldiers? In his eyes, they were like children, unable to arouse any interest. Li Cheng waved his hand and said, "Forget it. In 5 minutes, get the entire army to rush forward and charge." Purple Rose blinked her eyes and asked in puzzlement, "Rush forward? Charge?" If the entire army rushed forward, it would undoubtedly disrupt the players' formation. Would that not be courting death? The difference in strength between the two sides was right there. Was defense not the best choice? As if seeing Purple Rose's doubt, Li Cheng did not care to explain. Instead, he smiled at her and said, "If you believe in me, pass down the order. After this battle, your Rose Guild will definitely become several times stronger." Hearing this, Purple Rose took a few deep breaths. A hint of determination flashed in her eyes. She nodded and said, "Okay." Seeing Purple Rose like this, Li Cheng nodded as well. He stopped smiling and looked straight at the plains ahead. This terrain was personally chosen by Li Cheng. It was vast and boundless and there were no bunkers around. Seeing this, he smiled and sent a message to Pearl. "We can start now." Amidst the faint fog in the south of the Shadow World, a young girl was looking coldly ahead. Not far ahead, a pitch-black teleportation portal was constantly rotating. An endless number of players were passing through the portal as they slowly walked out. This young girl was Pearl. She and Lillian had been waiting here for a long time. They were less than 100 meters away from the teleportation portal. Hidden in the fog, the players from the various alliances could not discover them at all. At this moment, Pearl received Li Cheng's message and said to Lillian, "Master has ordered us to attack." Lillian nodded lightly and waved her arm. "Charge!" Ta, 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 ta. The sound of countless mechanical war horses stomping on the ground could be heard. Their bodies were like streamlines as they crashed into the portal. In just a second, the portal made a cracking sound and collapsed in the next moment. Where did these troops come from? Hey? They're from the Divine Dragon Alliance. The portal's going to break. Everyone, stop them. They only have tens of millions of troops. Hurry up and surround them. Countless Alliance army players were shocked by the sudden appearance of the Heavenly Knights. The sound of the portal collapsing spread far away. Countless players turned back to look at the south, not knowing what had happened. At this moment, the players guarding the portal had already surrounded the Heavenly Knights. Looking at the number, there were less than 20,000 Heavenly Knights and they looked very weak in front of them. However, as the Alliance army players launched their attacks, countless arrows and magic balls flew into the sky. Then, they saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. -0. -0. -0. Looking at the numbers that appeared, the Alliance army players were dumbfounded. What are these things? All of them are zero. Are these people mysterious NPCs? It's impossible that I can't break through their defenses. My army's made up of tier 3 existences. They're definitely powerful. How the hell are we supposed to fight this? Tier 3 existences can't break through their defenses. If these aren't NPCs, then what are they? While they were discussing, a cold glint flashed across Lillian's eyes. With just a single thought, those heavenly knights started to move immediately. Chapter 114, Do you know that the dragon hunting spear has its own grade? As the heavenly knight slashed at the ordinary human militia, there was a loud explosion. The units around then were instantly blown to smithereens. The heavenly knights were all under the effect of Li Cheng's power of fire, which meant his AoE attacks dealt AoE damage. At this moment, among the army of countless players, the heavenly knights looked like they were chopping vegetables. Moreover, the speed of the heavenly knights was incredibly fast, and what was even more terrifying was that they could fly. The players were completely dumbfounded. How were they supposed to fight? They could not break through the heavenly knights' defenses, and they could not run. Who can tell me what to do? I'm waiting online, and it's quite urgent. On the other side, as Li Cheng started to slaughter the enemies with the heavenly knights, the sound of system notifications rang in his ears. Ding, dong, your troops have destroyed the shadow portal. All troops that are being teleported are dead. Ding, dong, you've activated revenge mode. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 1,300 tier 1 human militia. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 2,500 tier 3 human archers. Ding, dong, your troops have killed a unit and received 1 slaughter point. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and received 10,000 slaughter points. Ding, dong. After closing the system notification, Li Cheng's eyes turned cold. It seemed that Lillian and Pearl had already made their move. It was time for him to start. The reason for this was simple. Li Cheng's goal was to close the portal and kill the dogs. A long time ago, Lillian and Pearl's troops had been sneaking around the teleportation portal in the south. As long as they destroyed the portal, there was no turning back for the troops of the various alliances. If Li Cheng remembered correctly, if the enemies ran to the south, that would be the altar of the goddess of darkness. Under her hands, it would be a miracle if these troops could survive. As for him, as long as he pushed the army over from his side, it would be a crushing defeat. There was no suspense. Although the players of the Divine Dragon Alliance were like his employees, they received a ridiculous amount of perverse buffs. If Li Cheng could not beat the enemy, he might as well delete his account and hide in his bed. Of course, even if there were no troops from the Divine Dragon Alliance, Li Cheng's troops alone could dominate the battlefield. At this moment, Li Cheng's gaze was on Asilia. Asilia blinked, not understanding why Li Cheng was looking at her like that, so she asked, "What's wrong? Are you going to participate in the war among the players?" Li Cheng asked. Asilia smiled and said matter-of-factly, "Of course, don't forget that I'm your hero now. Moreover, whoever starts a war with you is starting a war against the Church of Light as well." Hearing this, Li Cheng nodded and did not say anything more. He jumped onto Sylvia's back and flew toward the south. At this moment, within the Alliance army, everyone's faces turned green with anger when they heard the news that the teleportation gate had been destroyed. This had directly cut off their escape route. What? The teleportation gate's been destroyed. Even if we win, we won't be able to go back. The people from the Divine Dragon Alliance are really cunning. They actually played this trick. Every alliance had a limited number of passages they could use to enter the Shadow World. They could not open a portal to enter and exit the Shadow World like Li Cheng. At this moment, they had no way to go back. Even if they achieved the purpose of this trip and killed Li Cheng, their troops would not be able to return to their territory. They could only wait for the event to end and get kicked out of the map by the system. Of course, the players would have to return to their territory alone and their troops would starve to death in the shadow world. Just as the Alliance army was getting impatient, the clouds in the sky suddenly rolled. Roar! 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 Countless huge bodies instantly appeared from the clouds. Everyone in the Alliance army was shocked by this scene. Only by seeing it with their own eyes could they feel how strong the pressure of so many dragons was. As the guild leaders of their respective alliances, they naturally did their homework. Word of Li Cheng's dragon army had long since exploded in the game forums. At this moment, the White Elephant Alliance's leader, Great Brahma, laughed coldly and said loudly, "Everyone, don't panic. This is Netherworld's dragon army. We have the dragon hunting spears provided by the blade hunters. It'll only take a minute to finish them off." As soon as he finished speaking, Great Brahma waved his hand. Immediately, countless White Elephant Alliance players appeared behind him. These players had been specially gathered by him and they were all strong and violent warriors. They could throw the spears far, far away. At this moment, in their hands were the dragon hunting spears made by the blade hunters. Seeing that their throwers were ready, a cold glint flashed in Great Brahma's eyes as he immediately ordered the players to attack. Whoosh 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 whoosh! Countless dragon hunting spears tore through the sky, forming a huge net. The bodies of the frost dragons were extremely huge, so there was no need for them to aim. The dragon hunting spears struck the frost dragons' bodies. Then, countless numbers appeared on the bodies of the frost dragons. Immune! 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 When Great Brahman saw this scene, he was dumbfounded. What was going on? The dragon hunting spears that were used to hunt dragons were actually useless against these dragons. What was he playing at? One had to know that he had spent a lot of money to exchange for these dragon hunting spears from the blade hunters. They were even silver grade, all right? They had cost him more than half of his wealth. And now, those dragons were actually immune to it. Was this worth the money he had spent? On Sylvia's back, Li Cheng looked at the dragon hunting spears that the other party had thrown at him. He could only smile coldly, thinking how terrifying ignorance was. The dragon hunting spears also had their own grades. The spears thrown by the White Elephant Alliance were at most silver grade, which could only harm some sub-dragon species or underage dragons. These giant dragon troops of his had been amplified by the system by 10,000 times. Once they hatched, they would all be adults. If anyone wanted to hurt them, they would need at least an epic grade dragon hunting spear. Seeing that the blade hunters had actually sold such a large number of dragon hunting spears to the White Elephant Alliance, a cold glint flashed in Li Cheng's eyes. These blade hunters were really tired of living. They actually dared to provoke him? It seemed that he would have to find some time in the future to make a trip to their lair and help Sylvia take revenge. Perhaps they would even drop some good loot. Chapter 115, Divine Fragment. God of Massacre. At this moment, Li Cheng's dragon army had already flown above the Alliance army. Countless attacks from the Alliance army landed on the dragons, but they were unable to break through their defenses. In the next moment, Sylvia took the lead and dived down. Accompanied by an earth-shattering dragon roar, terrifying energy poured out from her mouth, killing countless Alliance troops in an instant. At the same time, the frost dragons also began to use their dragon's breath. The system's dense voice rang in Li Cheng's ears at the right time. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 10,000 Tier 1 human militia. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 10,000 Tier 3 human archers. Ding, dong, your troops have killed a unit and obtained 1 slaughter point. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 10,000 slaughter points. Ding, dong. Ding, dong, your Heart of Massacre has been repaired. Ding, dong. Your troops have killed 1,000 units and obtained 1 God of Massacre Divine Fragment. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 10,000 God of Massacre Divine Fragments. The dragon's breath of the frost dragons could kill 10,000 units at the same time. Moreover, the Alliance army was too densely packed, so this wave of dragon's breath dealt full damage. When the dragon's breath of the 8,000 frost dragons descended, the Alliance army lost over 80 million troops. After the 10,000 times amplification, the Heart of Massacre was completely repaired. Li Cheng hurriedly opened his backpack to take a look. Heart of Massacre, mythical, damaged. Description: a powerful artifact that was rumored to have been born at the beginning of the world. It was completely destroyed during the War of the Gods tens of thousands of years ago. There have been people trying to repair it for tens of thousands of years, but they all ended in failure. Grade: Myth Tier 7. Level: 1. Type: Hero Equipment, Lord only. Location: Connected. Effect 1: all units deal 500% true damage when they attack. Effect 2: when units are killed, God of Massacre Divine Fragments can be obtained. Repair progress: 0/500 trillion slaughter points. After seeing the repaired Heart of Massacre, Li Cheng was a little dumbfounded as he looked at its attributes. The new stage of the Heart of Massacre could actually provide 500% true damage. This was the first time that Li Cheng had seen such an increase in coefficient damage, not to mention it was also true damage. It was enough to show just how abnormal it was. What shocked Li Cheng even more was that the Heart of Massacre could actually condense divine fragments. Divine fragments were very useful. The typical use for them was to condense a new divine spark. Only with a divine spark would one have the capital to become a god. Usually, a complete divine spark was enough to make the experts of countless planes on the continent go crazy, especially those demigods which were mythical Tier 9 existences. Their desire for divine sparks had reached an extremely terrifying level. The children of demon kings like Tyavanas were all at the peak of the mythical grade. There were more than 10 of them. They fought so fiercely that they never hesitated to turn against their siblings. What was it for? For complete divinity. And now, Li Cheng could condense one divinity fragment after killing 1,000 units. Taking into account the 10,000 times amplification, that was 10,000 divinity fragments after killing 1,000 units. Although it was not complete divinity, as long as there were enough of them, it was only a matter of time before they condensed into complete divinity. Moreover, the function of the fragments was not limited to that. They could also be used to create various equipment blueprints and serve as a tribute in exchange for the favor and help of a certain god. Before Li Cheng was reborn, a divine fragment could be sold for billions of gold coins, and the item was the kind that had a price but no market. Thinking of this, Li Cheng opened his backpack and looked at the countless crystal-clear hexagonal crystals in his backpack. Divine Fragment, God of Massacre. Description: the God of Massacre's divine crystal fragments can be condensed into the divinity of the God of Massacre. Level: 1. Rank: Immortal. Effect: condenses the divinity of the God of Massacre, 367,000/50,000 trillion. Seeing the information of the divine fragments, Li Cheng frowned slightly. The God of Massacre? He had never heard of this god, but just by looking at this name, he could tell how strong this god was. Being in charge of massacres, whether it was war or murder, the act of killing would provide power to this god. The divinity of the God of Massacre was divided among many gods, such as the God of War, the God of Battle, the God of Duel, and so on. Li Cheng had also never heard of any god that was in charge of the divinity of Massacre. Since he could not figure it out, he did not want to think about it for the time being. On top of that, to condense the complete divinity of the God of Massacre, too many fragments were needed and it was impossible to complete it in a short time. Li Cheng's gaze returned to the battlefield. At this moment, countless frost dragons were wreaking havoc in the enemy's camp. The other terrifying aspect of the frost dragons was that their general attacks also had AoE damage. With a single bite, 1,000-man unit would be instantly killed. Li Cheng narrowed his eyes and looked down at the ground. A few minutes later, he saw a person surrounded by players. It was the White Elephant Alliance's great Brahma. Beside him, there were countless tall elephant soldiers. Li Cheng recalled that it seemed to be a special type of soldier brought by this S-rank talent. A leader of an alliance would naturally not be a mere mortal, and his talent seemed to be related to a certain god. Li Cheng sneered. He did not care if it was related to a god or not. If Great Brahma wanted to kill him, even a god would have to think twice. Then, he opened the activity panel and began his operation. Ding, dong. You've closed the shadow passage of the player, Great Brahma. Ding, dong. You've closed the shadow passage of the player, Shen Sansan. Ding, dong. You've closed the shadow passage of the player, Love Seed. Ding, dong. Li Cheng was shutting down all the shadow passages of the alliance forces. In other words, from now on, they would not be able to return to the main plane. If they wanted to return, there was only one way. If they died, they could return to their territory to revive themselves. As for their troops, they could only die here. At this moment, players from the alliance forces heard the system notification. Ding, dong. Due to location, your shadow passage has been closed. Hearing this, all the players were stunned, not knowing what was going on. What's going on? Is there a bug? We can't return to the territory? No way. What's going on? It seems like all we have to do is die and we can go back to the territory. No, what about our troops? Chapter 116, Priests Go Crazy, 2. In the White Elephant Alliance formation, the Great Brahma's face darkened when he heard the system's voice. Like everyone else, he could not go back to his territory. He wondered what was going on. Could Netherworld really be a cheat? He could actually control the system? This cheat was a little too awesome. When he thought of this, his face immediately turned black with anger. He cursed angrily, Netherworld, you trash who only knows how to play with authority. Just as he was doubting his life, he suddenly realized that the sky above him seemed to be covered by something. It instantly became extremely dark. With a rumble, a huge dragon that was dozens of meters long landed directly in front of him. Li Cheng looked at the man in front of him calmly. In his previous life, this White Elephant Alliance was not very strong during the Alliance War. Their troops were almost defeated in one hit. Such troops should not have any sense of presence. This man was like a pile of sh*t, constantly disgusted by the players of the Divine Dragon Alliance. The Great Brahma in front of him was even more powerful. The guild behind him practically controlled the wealth of the entire White Elephant Alliance, but now. Li Cheng waved the staff in his hand, and the energy ball instantly hit Great Brahma. His body instantly exploded and the highly toxic energy corroded his every fiber. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong. You've successfully killed the White Elephant Alliance's Great Brahma. Ding, dong. Instant kill. The staff in Li Cheng's hand was a level 10 legendary equipment. Although the level seemed relatively low, it was enough to deal with Great Brahma. After killing him, Li Cheng sent a message to Purple Rose. Great Brahma of the White Elephant Alliance is dead. He can't return to the Shadow World. Your army will follow my hero and attack the White Elephant Alliance first. In the Divine Dragon Alliance, Purple Rose received Li Cheng's message. Her beautiful eyes widened. Great Brahma of the White Elephant Alliance died just like that? One had to know that in Tribe, the death of a leader had a huge impact on the army. Especially in such a large-scale battle, if the leader died, there would be no one to command the battle line. If the other party had no one to command the battle line, it would be a huge opportunity for their enemies. At the same time, Luna and Asilia had already started to move. Countless frost marksmen instantly killed rows of meat shield soldiers. Meanwhile, the priests did not know what to do, because facing these low-level soldiers, Li Cheng's troops did not lose any HP at all. Seeing this scene, Acilia was not convinced. She immediately ordered the priests to attack as well. They did not have any offensive skills, so they were just normal attacks. Anyway, there was a huge gap between them and the enemy, as a normal attack from the priests would still be able to instantly kill the enemy. Seeing this scene, Purple Rose's mouth twitched involuntarily. She thought to herself, these are Netherworld's troops. Even the priests were stronger than her C-rank troops. However, she was still the guild leader of the 3 major guilds of the Divine Dragon Alliance. She did not forget what she was doing and immediately ordered the major guilds to launch a general attack. The players who received the order immediately became furious. They could not hold it in any longer and were now roaring as if they were on steroids. Kill! Netherworld boss has already killed Great Brahma of the White Elephant Alliance. Ha ha ha, this is the first time Great Brahma's been defeated, right? That's right, Great Brahma's really disgusting. He's always been our great enemy. Now that he's dead, it's considered to be a good thing for him. Taking the head of an enemy in an army of 10,000. As expected of Netherworld boss. I'm willing to call him the Eternal God. F***ck, killing the White Elephant Alliance. They've always disgusted me. If I don't take revenge now, when will I ever? The players from the Divine Dragon Alliance started to move out, one after another. When their enemy, the White Elephant Alliance, saw this scene, they were a little flustered. No one was able to direct them and they were caught off guard. Compared to the attacks of the players, Luna and Acilia were the real terror, especially Luna's Frost Marksman. They were simply the cannon of AoE. Li Cheng had already cast God of Thunder's Descent on the Frost Marksman. In addition to their own skills with the AoE effect, the attacks would cause an explosion after killing the enemy, and every attack would produce a chain of lightning. In other words, a normal attack from the Frost Marksman could instantly kill dozens of enemies. In addition to the 10 times attack speed boost, the 16,000 Frost Marksman could kill millions of enemies in a second. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were harvesters. In fact, they were even more terrifying than that. Acilia's priests were also extremely abnormal. As the army of the Divine Dragon Alliance joined the battle, they gave up on attacking. Instead, they gently waved the white staffs in their hands. All troops of the Divine Dragon Alliance were enveloped by a holy light, and their health was fully restored in an instant. When the members of the White Elephant Alliance saw this scene, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood. It was not easy to diminish their HP, but it was also not easy to replenish them. This was ridiculous. In less than a minute, the entire army of the White Elephant Alliance was in a mess. How were they supposed to fight? How were they supposed to play? They were in despair. Countless players ignored everything and ran away with their troops. When the players from the 100 Flowers Alliance saw this scene, they cursed angrily. Your White Elephant Alliance is too weak. You're running away just like that. Just like that? Just like that. In the end, you should still be watching the 100 Flowers Alliance. D*MN, don't force them. Run quickly. These people are too strong. They're not even human. They're tier 2 soldiers, but why are their attacks so high? F***ck. The people from the Divine Dragon Alliance are running too fast. How did they catch up to us? Listen up, people from the Divine Dragon Alliance. We're from the 100 Flowers Alliance. If you don't want to suffer heavy losses, put down your weapons and surrender. Give us half of your supplies. The fleeing White Elephant Alliance players had strange expressions on their faces when they saw this scene. Did they not hear what they had said earlier? Did they want to show off by telling you to the other to run instead of running themselves? Were they trying to show off or something? It was obvious that they could not warn the 100 Flowers Alliance players. If not, they might be able to escape unscathed. Meanwhile, the Divine Dragon Alliance players that were chasing after them slowed down considerably when they saw this scene. They thought that the other party had some sort of powerful weapon, so the players from the other guilds at the front tried to launch a probing attack. However, what dumbfounded them was that these players from the Flower Alliance were as fragile as paper, just like the White Elephant Alliance. They initially thought that the 100 Flowers Alliance had some sort of scheme up their sleeves, so they slowed down and continued to probe their attacks. However, the 100 Flowers Alliance players were still as fragile as before. The players from the Divine Dragon Alliance were instantly enraged. Did the enemy take them for fools? Without even thinking, another torrent of players broke through the 100 Flowers Alliance's defensive line. Chapter 117, High Priest. F***ck, I thought they were awesome, but they turned out to be paper tigers. Look at how confident they are. They almost scared me off. We must take our revenge. Kill them. Let's show them how powerful we are. Faced with the Divine Dragon Alliance players who were on steroids, the 100 Flowers Alliance ran away without saying a word. After the earlier scene, the people from the White Elephant Alliance were in front of them and they were taking the hits for the people from the White Elephant Alliance. All of a sudden, their faces turned sour. When the members of the White Elephant Alliance saw that they had suffered a loss, they immediately began to mock them. A bunch of idiots. I said we couldn't beat them, but they insisted on fighting them. Are you stupid? Ha ha ha, there are meat shields. Isn't that good? Thank you, brothers, for coming to have a meal with us after logging out of the game. Ha ha ha. Disobeying the seniors, the loss is happening right in front of us, brother. Ha ha ha. At this time, Li Cheng continued to search for his target. He and Sylvia were looking down at the troops below from high up in the sky, and very quickly, Li Cheng squinted his eyes. He saw a large group of kobolds. Next to those kobolds should be the formation of the Universe Alliance. Compared to the White Elephant Alliance, the Universe Alliance's formation was much smaller. However, their kobolds were abnormally large and densely packed. Li Cheng estimated that there were at least a few 100 million units. Li Cheng did not know what the connection between the kobolds and the Universe Alliance was, but he was not surprised. The Universe Alliance was the Eagle Alliance's most loyal vassal, and they were really suited for the kobolds. The kobolds that appeared here were definitely a super large-scale tribe. At this time, Li Cheng felt a strong hostility coming from the kobolds' camp. At the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, you've been cursed by Kobold Priest Mecha's divine spell. Your attribute points have been reduced by 50%. Ding, dong, Moondance Goddess Trelafani has dispelled your curse. Your attribute points have been restored. Hearing this voice, Li Cheng was also a little surprised. He did not expect that there was actually a priest in the Kobold army. Moreover, it could cast a curse on him. It was definitely a high-level priest. However, Trelafani had dispelled its curse in an instant. To fight against a god was still needed. The most important thing was that this kobold god was too trash that even Trelafani could dispel its curse. At this time, Li Cheng discovered the target. It was a kobold with a staff in its hand and he was one head taller than the rest of the kobolds. Li Cheng immediately cast a detection spell on it. Kobold Priest Mecha, Epic. Description: a high-level priest of the Kobold God that can use the power of the Kobold God to cast divine spells. Grade: Epic Tier 5. Level: 50. HP: 150 billion. Physical/magic attack: 150,000. Defense: 2,200. Skills: Kobold's Fury, Bloodlust, Physical Resistance. Li Cheng shook his head in disappointment when he saw this information. It was only an epic grade boss. If the Shadow Assassins were there, he could have taken it out in an instant. Moreover, he could have done so quietly. Unfortunately, the Shadow Assassins had been taken away by Lillian and was currently blocking the Alliance army from the south. At this moment, Li Cheng casually called over a few thousand frost dragons and was about to instantly kill the enemy. However, at this moment, a man appeared in front of the Universe Alliance's front lines. He was riding a tall warhorse and he was fully dressed in a gorgeous full set of armor. Looking at his ID, it was Universe Origin. At that moment, he looked at Li Cheng with a smug smile and said, "Netherworld, have you witnessed the power of the Kobold God? I advise you to surrender obediently and hand over the recruitment authority of the dragons. At the same time, let the Divine Dragon Alliance become a vassal of the Universe Alliance. Only then will I let you live. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Hearing this, Li Cheng was stunned. He did not know where this guy's confidence came from. Was it the confidence that the Kobold Priest gave him? Even if the Kobold God jumped out of the abyss, he would not be afraid, let alone an epic-grade priest boss. As long as Li Cheng was in the shadow world, he would not be afraid of any gods, what with his dozens of buffs. It had to be said that the Universe Alliance found the Kobold as their guardian god, which was very in line with the Universe Alliance's nature. After all, they were the same as the 100 Flowers Alliance. Their strength was not that great and they liked to jump around. They could never beat the other party alone, so they could only rely on the Eagle Alliance's subordinates and become their dogs. After so many years, those who were dogs still felt a sense of superiority. Li Cheng shook his head and ignored him. Talking to such a person was really a waste of his saliva. Instead, he snapped his fingers and directly ordered the frost dragons to start attacking. Countless dragons instantly began to focus their fire on the Kobold Priest, and in less than a second, the sound of the system rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong! Your troops have killed the epic-grade Kobold Priest mecha. You've obtained 200,000 shadow points. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 20 million shadow points. Ding, dong! You've obtained 50,000 contribution points from the Church of Light. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 500 million contribution points from the Church of Light. Ding, dong! You've killed a priest of the Kobold God. Its favorability with you has permanently decreased by 200 points. It'll remain a permanent enemy. Hearing this news, Li Cheng picked his ears indifferently. He had offended a god, especially in the early stages of the game. This was absolutely suicidal. If it was an ordinary player, they would definitely be targeted and unable to play the game from then on. However, Li Cheng was not worried at all. The Kobold God? This kind of trash was worthy of going against him? This Kobold God was a piece of trash that could not even defeat Trelafani and Ella. If he really came to find him, that would be great, as he could test if he could rely on his current damage in the shadow world to kill an immortal god. At this time, Li Cheng was looking down at Universe Origin. He was quite far away, or else he would have been burned to death by the dragon's AoE attacks. The Universe Origin still had a smile on his face. However, the smile was extremely stiff. He still could not react. How could an epic-grade boss die so easily? Moreover, it was an epic-grade boss that had the help of a god. How could it be killed instantly? How many days had it been since the server opened? What kind of monster was this netherworld? He was, after all, the leader of an alliance. He also knew that Li Cheng would not let him off. Therefore, at this moment, he did not give in. Instead, he roared angrily, "Netherworld, don't be too arrogant. I did lose today, but that's it for you. Do you really think that's all we can do? Ha ha ha, your actions have long aroused public anger. We're not the only ones who want to see you suffer." Chapter 118, Territory Invasion. Hearing this, Li Cheng frowned. It seemed that these people still had some tricks up their sleeves. However, would it even work? In front of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were useless. As long as his strength could crush the players, he was not afraid of them jumping in front of him. If he hopped, he would break one leg. If he jumped, he would break two people's legs. If he took a big leap, he would be harvesting them. Thinking of this, Li Cheng did not hesitate. He waved his staff and Universe Origin's health bar dropped to 0. When he was done, the system's voice rang in his ears. Warning! Warning! A player's army has invaded your territory. Warning! Warning! A player's army has invaded your territory. Warning! Warning! A player's army has invaded your territory. Main world continent. Peerless Prideful was riding on a tall warhorse, his face filled with pride. Beside him was a player riding a pitch-black warhorse, his entire body emitting a pitch-black light. His name was Everlasting, and he was the first player in the entire tribe to join the evil forces. At that moment, there were countless troops behind them. Half of them were the core players of the Prideful Guild, while the other half were clad in long black robes, emitting a terrifying and evil aura. At this moment, Peerless Prideful looked at the tall city walls in the distance and he felt a little uneasy. These city walls and those towering azure defense towers did not look like those so-called low-level goods. However, they had used a scouting spell. For some reason, the information they received was full of question marks, preventing them from looking at the attributes of these buildings. At this moment, Peerless Prideful asked, Everlasting, are you confident? Hearing this, Everlasting smiled slightly and said, Don't worry, Guild Leader Prideful, as long as the money's in place, there will definitely be no problems. There will surely be a lot of money, but why haven't you made a move? The tone of his voice became a little cold. He had always been arrogant, but when had he ever been ignored like this? Everlasting ignored him and only said, I'm waiting for someone. Instantly, his face turned red with anger. He was the guild leader of the 3 great guilds of the Divine Dragon Alliance, yet he was being looked down upon by an unspecialized player. He was about to flare up, but in the end, he endured it. Now was not the time to turn hostile. After all, he had a favor to ask of someone. Once he broke through Netherworld's territory, then he would have the time to be hostile. The two of them did not speak. After a few minutes, a pitch-black teleportation door suddenly appeared. Immediately after, a man in a black robe walked out. His entire body was hidden under the black robe and he held a similarly pitch-black staff in his hand. Seeing this man appear, Everlasting quickly dismounted and knelt on one knee in front of the man in black, saying, Greetings, High Priest Joyce. There was a huge gap between Everlasting's previous indifference and his behavior at that current moment. No one looked down on Everlasting. Instead, they looked at the man in black seriously because this was definitely a ruthless person. Joyce nodded his head lightly. Hehe, are you that newly promoted Dark Lord? Not bad. After he finished speaking, Joyce turned around and looked at the territory not far away and he was shocked when he saw it. Then, his expression froze. No one knew what he was thinking. Everlasting and Peerless Prideful did not dare to say anything more. They could only accompany him quietly. After a few seconds, Joyce suddenly cursed, Is this the F***ing small human territory that you told me about? Do you F***ing know what this is? If you want to die, don't drag me along. Are sick in the head or something? D***mn it, what bad luck. Suddenly, the air became extremely quiet. Everyone was dumbfounded and did not know what had happened. Everlasting's face was even sprayed with saliva all over. Everyone's faces were filled with question marks. They did not know what was going on. This high priest was famous for being calm, no? Why was it different from the legends? He was not calm at all. Before everyone knew what was going on, Joyce continued to curse and he no longer cared what these people were thinking. Do you know what the F***ck this is? The city wall of the Church of Light. Do you stupid dogs know what grade it is? It's epic. There's even mechanical armor on the city wall. Do you know what level that is? Legendary. You trash soldiers, you still want to attack this place? Do you really think this is a small human territory? Even if you attack together for a few days, you'll die of exhaustion and the city wall won't even lose a single drop of blood. Do you understand? And this is only a defensive building. Can you see those defensive towers with your dog eyes? Do you know what level they are? Legendary. Even if I were to go up, I'd instantly be reduced to dust, not to mention trash like you. Although he could not cast a detection spell to check the attributes, Joyce had lived for hundreds of years. Just by looking at the appearances of the buildings, he knew what levels they all were. Everlasting, this brain-dead guy, actually wanted him to attack such a territory? Was Everlasting planning on sending him to his death? Who would not be angry in such a situation? If he really wanted to attack such a territory, Joyce might as well attack the City of Light. Hearing this, Peerless, Prideful and Everlasting were in a state of confusion. They suspected that their hearing had gone wrong. An epic grade city wall? Legendary defense towers? Did they really hear correctly? Initially, they thought Li Cheng's defense towers and city walls were not worth much. The reason was simple. There were simply too many of these things in Li Cheng's territory. There were at least 1,000 of them, right? They did not know the exact value of a legendary defense tower yet. However, it was definitely not bad. How many days had the server been opened? Li Cheng had 1,000 of them? This did not make sense. However, looking at Joyce's expression, it did not seem like he was lying to them. Could there really be 1,000 legendary defense towers in front of them? No way, right? Just as they were panicking, a shadow suddenly appeared in the clouds in the sky. Everyone narrowed their eyes and looked up. Roar! 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 Accompanied by a deafening dragon's roar, countless frost dragons opened their bloody mouths and swooped down. Chapter 119, Activate the Immortal Item. Seeing that someone had come to his door, Li Cheng did not say anything. Instead, he had the frost dragons activate their dragon's breath. Instantly, the blue frost energy dyed the ground ice blue, and at the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 2,600 level 4 followers of the Dark Church and you've triggered a 10,000 times increase. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 7,000 level 5 followers of the Dark Church and you've triggered a 10,000 times increase. Ding, dong, your troops have killed 7,000 level 5 guards of the Dark Church and you've triggered a 10,000 times increase. Countless kill notifications popped up crazily. Listening to these notifications, Li Cheng narrowed his eyes slightly. It had to be said that his troops could indeed be considered elites. The weakest among them were level 4 existences. There were also quite a few level 7 elite troops among them, and there were many of them. It seemed like at least tens of millions of troops had arrived. To be able to gather so many troops at this time could be considered powerful, which was why Everlasting's success was well deserved in his previous life. This was not without reason. However, in the face of Li Cheng's frost dragons, Everlasting's troops were no different from a level 1 militia. They were all instantly killed like Li Cheng was cutting vegetables. Their health bars could not even last half a second. Initially, Li Cheng thought that the Universe Alliance and the 100 Flowers Alliance would have some great killing moves. He did not expect that their trump card would be here, meeting the idiot, Peerless, Prideful, and Everlasting. The latter could be considered to have some strength. As for the former, he was a complete idiot, or should he say, a piece of trash? Perhaps calling him an idiot was too much of a compliment. Just as the frost dragons were wreaking havoc, a pitch-black teleportation door was slowly taking shape in an inconspicuous corner. Seeing this, Li Cheng only smiled coldly. Was his territory a place anyone could come and go as they pleased? Would he not be letting his host down? He immediately ordered the frost dragons to focus their fire on the portal. The surging frost energy directly enveloped the portal. In the next moment, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong. Your troops have killed epic grade High Priest Joyce and obtained 20 million experience points. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 200 million experience points. Ding, dong. You've obtained 50,000 contribution points from the Church of Light. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 500 million contribution points from the Church of Light. Ding, dong. You've killed a priest of the Goddess of Darkness. Her favorability with you has permanently decreased by 200 points. She'll remain hostile to you forever. Upon hearing the system notification, Li Cheng was slightly surprised. He did not expect Everlasting to be able to invite a priest of the Dark Goddess over. If that were the case, there could only be one explanation: the evil faction that Everlasting had joined was the Goddess of Darkness's faction. It was no wonder he could find so many dark believers. However, this Goddess of Darkness was not called that for nothing. She was famous for her dark heart. If he followed her, he might lose his life if he was not careful. Seeing that Li Cheng had killed the Dark Priest in an instant, both Peerless Prideful and Everlasting were stunned. The Universe Alliance said that Netherworld had appeared on the battlefield in the Shadow World, right? 1 second, these dragons were wreaking havoc on the Alliance army in the Shadow World, and the next second, they appeared here? This did not make sense. Even if Li Cheng had rushed over the moment he was notified of an invasion in his territory, it was impossible for him to arrive so quickly. Every teleportation point was fixed, and according to the information the Alliance army had sent, the place of battle was very far away from the teleportation point. How did he do it? At this moment, there was no time to think. Everlasting began to try to attack the frost dragons. The remaining believers shot pitch-black magic balls that exploded once they landed on the frost dragons. -0. -0. -0. Seeing this scene, Everlasting's pupils instantly widened. How was this possible? If he had ordinary soldiers, it would be understandable. However, these were the level 7 soldiers that he had rented. Looking at the current players, they were definitely the highest tier and the most elite. Could they still not break through the dragon's defenses? Could Netherworld's dragons be legendary soldiers? Where did his recruitment authority come from? If Li Cheng knew Everlasting's thoughts at this moment, he would definitely be speechless. Did he even understand the game? Did he live up to his reputation in Li Cheng's previous life? Which family's legendary soldiers could be so strong? They were real champion soldiers, and they were elite dragons among the champion soldiers. Of course, Li Cheng could not be bothered to understand their thoughts. At this moment, he noticed a figure fleeing in a panic. The players of the Prideful Guild were fleeing in all directions without any regard for their lives. Among them, Li Cheng also noticed a figure sitting on a tall warhorse. It was the guild leader of the Pride Guild, Peerless Prideful, whom Li Cheng called an idiot. When he saw him, Li Cheng's expression turned cold. This guy was not only an idiot but also a dog that would come to disgust Li Cheng from time to time. Originally, Li Cheng wanted to ask Sylvia to chase after him, but suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He lowered his head and looked at the ring on his hand, smiling sinisterly. This ring was the immortal gaze of the ancient evil gods. The requirement to wear it was level 30. Previously, because his level was not high enough, he had kept it in his backpack to collect dust. Now that his level had reached the requirement, he could use it to test the waters. He had originally planned to try this buff on Heartless War Soul or Eve from the Eagle Alliance. Now that he saw the disgusting Peerless Pride, he decided to give him the experience instead. He wanted to see who was the disgusting one now. Li Cheng did not hesitate and immediately used this immortal item to activate his skill. Ding, dong, you're about to activate the skill, Evil God's Gaze, on Peerless Prideful, do you confirm? Ding, dong, you're about to activate the skill, Ancient Curse, on Peerless Prideful, do you confirm? Confirm. Following Li Cheng's confirmation, a pitch-black light of disaster spread out from Li Cheng's ring and instantly entered Peerless Prideful's body. Ding, dong, your luck value has decreased by 200. The skill, Evil God's Gaze, has been successfully activated. Ding, dong, your luck value has decreased by 1000. The skill, Ancient Curse, has been successfully activated. Hearing this, Li Cheng could not help but feel a little expectant. He, too, wanted to know what would happen when a person's luck value reached a high negative number. After all, he had only heard about it in the past. Everything had to be seen to be deemed true. Chapter 120, The Consequences of High Negative Luck. At this time, the system's voice also rang in Peerless Prideful's ears. Ding, dong. Player Netherworld has cast Evil God's Gaze on you. Your luck value has been decreased by 99,999 points. Ding, dong. Player Netherworld has cast Ancient Curse on you. The population limit of your territory and your army's morale has decreased by 99%. Ding, dong. The two buffs above are permanent. Only after killing Player Netherworld can you remove this effect. Hearing the system notification, Peerless Prideful was also a little confused. He had no idea what was going on. He could not help but stare at his own buff bar. Then, he rubbed his eyes and looked at it again and again. After repeating that 3 times, he finally confirmed it. Just as Peerless Prideful was about to curse, the system's voice rang in his ears again before he could even organize his words. Ding, dong. Your army of 10,620 level 2 human infantrymen have collapsed as their morale is too low. Ding, dong, your army of 6,540 level 2 human archers have collapsed as their morale is too low. Ding, dong. Ding, dong, your B-class hero, Peerless Warrior, has left your territory as his loyalty is too low. Ding, dong. Your large warehouse has accidentally exploded during operation. All the resources inside have been destroyed. Ding, dong. The system's voice kept ringing in his ears. Peerless Prideful's brain was completely frozen. He could not think at all. In just a few short seconds, his army had completely collapsed. The heroes had also all left. In his faraway territory, the warehouse had also exploded. What the F***ck was he going to do? This was not the end. At that moment, the warhorse he was riding suddenly collapsed to the ground. Ding, dong, your warhorse had an accident while running. It accidentally died. A number appeared above Peerless Prideful's head as he fell off his warhorse. -386. Peerless Prideful's face was as black as iron. He fell to the ground in a mess and cursed. At the same time, he quickly took out a bottle of potion from his backpack and drank it. Ding, dong, when you were using the basic life potion, an accident occurred. Your HP has decreased by 99,999 points. Ding, dong. You've been killed in battle. You'll be resurrected in the Lord's Hall of your territory. Currently, your experience points have been reduced to 0 and your level is -1. Inside his territory, Peerless Prideful looked around with a blank expression. He even wondered if this was his territory. He could only see smoke rising from the territory and countless burning buildings. The names of the troops that originally belonged to him had turned red. This meant that his troops had mutinied. Can someone tell me what's going on? Peerless Prideful roared angrily. At this moment, the system's voice rang in Peerless Prideful's ears again. Before this voice could speak, Peerless Prideful unconsciously took a few steps back. He was afraid of hearing the system's notification. Unfortunately, the system did not care about him. Instead, it continued to tell him the situation that he was facing. Ding, dong. The epic grade boss, Hell's Cruel Official, has arrived in your territory. Please, gather your troops to defend against the enemy. Hearing this, Peerless Prideful flopped to the ground helplessly. Gather his troops to defend against the enemy? What would he use to gather his troops? The troops that originally belonged to him had rebelled against him in reality. Perhaps they would focus their fire on him first. He had fallen to such a state, what else could he use to defend against the enemy? With his physique that could be blown away by the wind? Would he even be enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of an epic-grade boss? In the sky, Li Cheng stood there, also somewhat dumbfounded. He touched his face. He had not done anything and Peerless Prideful had fallen to his death? And judging from his expression at that time, his territory might have also undergone a major change. This was the terror of having a high negative luck value. Following the collapse of Peerless Prideful, the members of the Prideful Guild scattered like monkeys under falling trees, each running faster than the other. Seeing this scene, Li Cheng could not be bothered to chase after them. They were all small fries. At this moment, the troops of the Church of Darkness had also fallen. Everlasting was anxiously gathering his troops. Perhaps sensing that Li Cheng was looking at him, Everlasting turned his gaze over. His eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Everlasting's heart was bleeding. To convince the church to send some troops to attack Li Cheng's territory, he had spent a lot of effort. He had even overdrawn his credit and contribution points in the church. The Church of Darkness was the same as the other major churches. Each church had similar contribution points. According to Everlasting's plan, as long as he defeated Li Cheng, the God-blessed Earl of the Church of Light, or destroyed his territory, he would make a huge profit. However, the reality was that not only had his troops suffered heavy losses, but they had also led a high priest to his death. His contribution points in the Church of Darkness had fallen by tens of millions. One had to know that overdrawing contribution points in the church was similar to usury. In the future, his debt would only increase daily. Thinking of this, his teeth chattered. He wished that he could bite Li Cheng to death. What? You're not convinced? Looking at Everlasting's expression, Li Cheng smiled disdainfully. Netherworld, don't be too arrogant. You're not the only one who's lucky. Everlasting said through gritted teeth. In his eyes, Li Cheng's smile was smug. Hearing this, Li Cheng laughed out loud. Hee, do you think you can turn the tables? Don't tell me you're counting on that old virgin, the goddess of darkness. Go back and tell her that I'll kill my way into the Garden of Darkness in the future. I'll let her clear her name and wait for my arrival. Since he had already killed the priest of the Goddess of Darkness and they were in a state of perpetual hostility, Li Cheng naturally would not show any mercy. He would do whatever he wanted to hurt her. At the same time, the Goddess of Darkness was also Trelafani's enemy who had bullied her, so he naturally had to seek justice for her. As for the Garden of Darkness, it was the name of the Dark Goddess's kingdom. Just as he said, he would kill his way in sooner or later. After saying this, Li Cheng casually pressed A, and dark green energy exploded on Everlasting's body. As expected, he was instantly killed. Ding, dong! You killed player Everlasting.